Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. A 16-year-old student from North Carolina was suspended because he asked in a vocabulary lesson what the term alien meant, whether it meant from outer space or the illegal migrant kind. A couple months ago, we saw 3 presidents of the universities questioned whether asking or screaming out for genocide for the Jews in Israel is considered hate speech, and they all said that depended on the context. We're here today to discuss a bill that my colleague and author of the bill, Senator Bill Weber, has asked me to carry on the Assembly side. Senator?
Thank you. Globalize the intifada from the river to the sea by any means necessary. These are the signs that we see on college campuses today. I'm Senator Bill Weber. This is the rhetoric and these are the signs that Jewish students have heard and have seen on college campuses in New York State for the last number of weeks. I represent Rockland County, which has the highest per capita Jewish residency of any county in the United States. So this is very personal to me and my constituents. Assemblyman Ari Brown and I first drafted the Combating Campus Antisemitism Act after being shocked by the anti-Semitic protests we saw on college campuses after the horrific events on October 7th committed by Hamas, the terrorist organization. Those protests seem almost quaint now, and we have not just seen anti-Semitic activities, but pro-Hamas protests at city colleges, CUNY, SUNY campuses, and private colleges and universities throughout New York State. Hamas is a United States and a European Union designated terrorist organization. Let me repeat, Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's appalling to see support for Hamas and the celebration of the rape, torture, murder, and kidnapping of innocent civilians on October 7th in our higher education institutions. This headline from USA Today on October 24th says it all. Hamas and Iran celebrate anti-Gaza war protests taking U.S. colleges by storm. New York college students dressed in their Hamas cosplay are now useful idiots from Hamas. Let me repeat again, Hamas is a terrorist organization. If you are celebrating Hamas, if you are calling yourself Hamas, then you are calling for the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel and the killing of Jews and Israelis everywhere. Our bill, the Combating Campus Antisemitism Act, will ensure taxpayer-funded tuition assistance awards, which range from about $1,000 to $5,600, wouldn't go to any of these students. Our bill states that no tuition assistance award shall be provided to any student in any academic year who has knowingly engaged in promoting anti-Semitism in a manner that is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action that constitute true threats as defined by the U.S. Supreme Court. What I opened with the slogans on the signs and the chants that are being made against our Jewish students, and frankly all students at institutions, meet this definition. The Combating Campus Antisemitism Act is sitting in the Higher Education Committee. We first drafted this bill late last year. It's been sitting in higher ed since then. We are calling on Higher Education Chairwoman in the Senate, Senator Stavinsky, to immediately pass this bill out of committee, work with her counterpart in the Assembly to move that bill to the floor in the Assembly, and let's get it passed and signed by the governor so we can really make a difference and hit these kids and students that are chanting these anti-Semitic slogans and threats, hit them where it hurts, in their pocket. We taxpayers in New York State should not be funding their hate. Now is the time for action and accountability. We need to do everything we can that is happening now to stop what's happening now on the college campuses. One way to do this is to continue to hit these students in the wallets. We need to take away their TAP funding right now. With that, I'll introduce my colleague, Assemblyman Ari Brown. Ari?
Thank you, Senator. To my Christian brethren here, let me put something into real context. Yesterday at George Washington University, they went to the statue of George Washington and draped him in some Arab Intifada garb, desecrated our first and founding father, our first president of the United States. This is not just a Jewish problem. They're just going after the Jews. It's not. It's an American problem. And if we don't stand up to this now, it will continue. As the senator said, we're here to seek a justice. We know we're never going to get that with cashless bail, but maybe we can hit him where it hurts in the pocketbook. Imagine today we have bills that came before us in the Senate and the Assembly that any bill or any certain writings that go through the state Assembly or Senate would have to be using the proper pronouns, they or them, or it's considered hate speech. But to call out for intifada and the destruction of Israel and the destruction of Jewish people, well, that's just a matter of context. We're in these great hallowed halls, and what happens? We pass menstrual hygiene day and they, them, and all this other nonsense. But when calling for the destruction of my people, our people, Jews throughout the world, we have a tiniest sliver. You can't even see it on the map when you look at the Middle East, and that's not good enough. We make up 15 million people. It's not even a fraction of a percent. Have we not given back to the world? We make up 25% of all Nobel Prize winners, science, mathematics, education, of everywhere. Why the destruction of the Jewish people? People talk about a two-state solution. It's kind of a joke because in the 1920s, that's exactly what happened. The Jews have always been in Israel for thousands of years, long before the invention of Mohammed. Jesus was a Jew, but the official state in 1948 was created. But in the 20s, there was a partition by the British. The Jews got what's now looks like the map of Israel, and the so-called Palestinians, a group that never existed throughout history. There's not a coin or a king or a ruler throughout history that was ever called a Palestinian. The Jews were the Palestinians. They lived in Palestine. It was named when they were expelled from the Second Temple as a spit in the face by the Roman Emperor Philistina. So they called the Jews Philistines. This is where they got the name. So look what's happened. They've had their state, Gaza, and what they do over there, they could have made it flourish just like Israel did, one of the best real estate investments in the world. But instead, they took the hundreds of billions of dollars and they invested into tunnels where they can attack and destroy and collude with Iran. I had a different speech of a different kind, but you hear the passion in my voice. I'm an American kid. I'm a Jewish American kid. My mother came and my grandmother went through the Holocaust. They were interned right here upstate New York, in Oswego, New York, for 18 months in a barbed wire camp because President Roosevelt felt, well, we can't trust the Italians just like they didn't trust the Japanese. But they went through the process. They were checked if they had a place to go and if they could work and if they were healthy. That doesn't happen today, and we have a president today that actually wants to let unvetted migrants from the South and Palestinians and other groups into our nation. We cannot allow this to happen here in the Capitol. Every cockamamie bill is always passed. This is a bill that has to go forward now. These kids called for the destruction of Israel. It's hate speech. Let me just finish my end of this speech by saying, if we were going after the black or Hispanic or any other of our brethren, believe me, this would have ended in 2 seconds, but enough is enough. Jewish blood is not cheap. And this bill should come forward and out of committee. Shame on the majority. I'd like to introduce Colonel Robert Smolin. He's the ranking member of the Committee of Higher Education to discuss certain implications. Colonel?
Thank you, Ari. As the ranking member of the Committee on Higher Education, we most recently made a motion to discharge this bill from our committee. This bill is absolutely what New York needs right now at this time. It's going to take this situation where we have students that are being arrested, they're being suspended, they're being expelled, and some of them will be charged with crimes that are anti-Semitic in nature, that are hate crimes under New York State's laws of today. And what this law would do was ensure that all of the citizens of New York State, the 20 million people of New York State, take care that our universities, Fashion Institute of Technology, Cornell, Binghamton, private universities like Columbia, that they are not allowed to use public dollars to support students that engage in anti-Semitic activities, including hate speech and violence on those campuses. This is fundamental to the rule of law. And we know who's behind it. We know that it's Iran that's behind this, a state sponsor of terrorism. We know that Hamas is a foreign terrorist organization. We know that the people who perpetrated the October 7th atrocities are criminals under international law. And we now know from reporting in the Wall Street Journal that all of this virus that has been let loose in the bloodstream of the American body politic into our education systems, and here in New York, where we have 1 million plus New Yorkers who are Jewish, 1/15 of the Jewish population of the entire world, it's incumbent upon us 20 million New Yorkers to say enough is enough, to stand up for them affirmatively, and not allow a single dollar of our taxpayers' dollars to go towards these students to be educated in our institutions. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. I'd like to call Assemblyman Ed Ra, Ranking Member of Ways and Means, to discuss some fiscal implications.
Thank you, Assemblyman and Senator. TAP is really the lifeblood of our higher education system in New York State, and it's a great program that gives our students an opportunity to have support as they're going through higher education. But our taxpayers in our state do not want to fund students that are making other students unsafe on their campuses. When you have an institution of higher learning that is telling a segment of their student population, you're not safe on your own campus, you can't come to your own campus, something is really wrong. And if we go back to last fall, even before October 7th, we had a rally outside the CUNY Chancellor's office. Senator Martins was there, Senator Canzeri Fitzpatrick, Assemblyman Ari Brown was there, and we were talking about then the poor job these institutions were doing to deal with anti-Semitism on their campus. And we had several students talking about then how unsafe they felt on their own campus. Then October 7th happened, and then we've seen what has happened since then, in particular in the last few weeks. We're canceling graduations, we're sending Jewish students home. It's unacceptable. And what I've heard from many constituents in the last few weeks and even the last few months was, how long are we going to allow our taxpayer dollars to fund this? What this bill says is no more. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. You know, this is nothing new. It's been going on for thousands of years. You know, I laugh sometimes when people say, only through education will we get rid of anti-Semitism. It's actually the total opposite, because it's only in the places of education where you see this perpetuation of hate against the Jewish people. 86, I was finishing up college. I met my then soon-to-be wife. I went to Queens College. I met her at the kosher calf. Well, guess what? That kosher calf is now the halal calf, and the Jews are chased off of CUNY in every which way. Today we have Professor Jeff Lax, a respected professor at Kingsborough Community College, who's been fighting this fight long before any of us have on a daily basis. I'd like to share a few words. Professor Lax?
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblyman Brown. Thank you, Assemblyman Weber, for co-sponsoring both of you. Behind me stand heroes. Every single one of these people are heroes. I can't imagine, and I come from 4 Holocaust survivors, immigrants, escapees from communism, my parents. I can't imagine a more obvious, simple, non-controversial bill, common sense bill, humane bill than what I'm looking at right in front of me, and that what these fine assemblymen have presented it today. You know, on my campus, a student at Kingsborough Community College took a baseball bat and went out looking for Jews 2 years ago. This is before October 7th. Went out looking for Jews, looking to beat Jews with a posse of 2 or 3 of his friends. He found one, and he beat the living hell out of that Jewish kid with a yarmulke with a baseball bat. He was arrested, he was convicted of a hate crime, and the president of my school, who I'm going to name loud and clear, Claudia Schrader, did nothing, said nothing, and there were no consequences to her. I wrote to her, and I wrote to her, and I'm a department chair, so I report directly to her, and I called her, and I emailed her, and I begged her to speak out. Nothing, not one word. 2 years passed. She said, she did nothing. On our campus, there is rabid anti-Semitism. At CUNY, there is rabid anti-Semitism. Students are being physically abused and beaten and attacked physically. And the president of my campus was awarded with a promotion to York, 4-year college. They moved her out of Kingsborough. Why? To get her away from the Jewish population, in my opinion. That's just an educated guess. But she's on a campus now with virtually no Jews. And she said not a word. And then on October 7th, when she was still the president of my campus, on October 7th, we all witnessed and read and heard about the horrors. Innocent civilian women raped, babies beheaded, and burned. And my president refused to condemn Hamas, refused. And I again pleaded with her, President Schrader, please say something, please. How are the Jews supposed to feel on our campus? She said nothing. She did nothing. I asked her again. She said nothing. She did nothing. I went to the New York Post. They called her and they printed an article, and only after they harassed her for a week on end. And by the way, she was seen at the Today Show at a concert that week on that Friday when she had still said nothing. She was dancing. She was dancing the week that babies were burned and women were raped and bleeding in the streets. And she was seen at the Today Show. This is the state of CUNY. What a disgrace. Shame, and I do not politicize this. Shame on the majority for not acting on this. I just found out today that this is stuck in committee. Shame on you. Shame on you. This is the easiest bill in the world to pass. And if you think it's just Jews, then you have not seen what I have seen up close and personal every day for the past decade. It is not about Jews. This is anti-American, what's going on. They raised the flag of Palestine on the campus of City College, a public university. They raised the Palestinian flag. They took down the American flag. Where are we? We are in the United States of America. My parents who came here legally, the really hard way, back in the 50s are so proud to be Americans, so proud. My parents grew up Democrats. My grandparents were taught they should be Democrats, and I despise politicization of anti-Semitism. But when I look behind me today, I only see one party, and that sickens me. Sickens me. This should not be politicized. When Jews on my campus are being beaten, this is an easy bill to pass, and it should go through. And if 2 or 3 or 1 person from the other side would just see to their own heart, do you want this happening to your kids or your relatives or your friends? This is not just Jews, as the assemblymen have said correctly. This is an American issue. The enemy of the Democrats are not the Republicans. Believe me when I tell you this. The faculty members, I'm going to give you a big scoop. You want a big scoop? The Marxist faculty on our campuses hate the Democrats. They don't support the Democrats. They think the Democrats are just as bad as the Republicans. So if you think this is political, to those of you in this committee who voted to keep this on hold, shame on you. They are your enemies. They don't support you. They didn't support the governor. They thought she was too moderate. They are not Democrats. They are Marxists. There's a big difference. We need to come together as Americans and do the right thing. And again, I thank all the heroes, and especially my brother, Ari Brown, and my new brother, Assemblyman Weber. Senator Weber. I just lost a brother.
No, you gained a big brother.
I love you guys for doing this. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We're going to have a few words from Assemblyman Misha Novikov.
Thank you. Yeah, very briefly, thank you so much to Senator Weber and Assemblymember Brown for putting together this press conference and for this necessary bill. The only thing I would like to add is that I came up with an idea of creating a resolution, proposing a resolution for End Jewish Hatred Day, which I proposed for May 15th. But believe it or not, it's not a bill, it's just a resolution. Believe it or not, the majority didn't let this resolution to the floor. What's wrong with End Jewish Hatred Day? What's wrong with it? We can't even pass the resolution. By the way, it was passed in New York City Council last year. Just think about it. End Jewish Hatred Day. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call upon my partner, my friend and colleague, Senator Patricia Canzoneri Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Thank you to Senator Bill Weber, and thank you to, as you said, my colleague in government, Assemblyman Ari Brown, for setting up this press conference. I've been a member of the Anti-Semitism task force that was started by my other colleague, Senator Jack Martins, long before October 7th. Long before October 7th, we knew anti-Semitism was a problem that needed to be addressed. And it still is not getting addressed, even after the events of October 7th, when anti-Semitism has risen to an all-time high. I am appalled that we cannot move legislation that will address this, because as was stated, hate against any group is certainly not something that anybody behind me or anybody as an elected official should ever support, because if it starts with one group, it will filter to the others. I carry legislation with Assemblyman Ed Ra, which is the Dismantling Student Anti-Semitism Act, which would require institutions of higher learning to implement anti-Semitism awareness and prevention training, and to report and record incidents of anti-Semitism. That would be a total win to actually know what's truly going on, because as we just heard, there's multiple accounts that we never hear about. There was campus anti-Semitic report card, which was published by the Anti-Defamation League, a group that I probably know nothing, I would never agree with about issues, and they gave New York campuses, nearly half the schools, a D or an F, and not one in New York State received an A. We need to take immediate action to ensure that our Jewish brothers and sisters can feel safe wherever they go. They have that right, and they are being deprived of that constantly right now. It's especially important that we address the issue on campuses because it is breeding hate with our young people, and it has to stop. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Before Senator Weber takes questions, Assemblyman Alec Burke-Krasny would like to say a few short words.
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful to my colleagues for getting us together, and I'm going to be very concise. 2 days ago, I had a meeting with the Holocaust survivors in my district. I used to have many, unfortunately not anymore, but the few are still there. And they're afraid. They're afraid. Now, slogan never again, having a question mark at the end, because Holocaust survivors are afraid again. This world is not divided by Democrats and Republicans. This world now is divided by the builders and destroyers. And it's so sad, it's so upsetting that among those destroyers are the kids from the best universities who are supposed to be the smartest ones. They now becoming destroyers. So we need to act. We need to act legislatively. We need to act as human beings. As we all know, first, it's against Jews. It's against Jewish people. And then, against the others. I would say the other builders. But let me finish by saying never again still. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman.
I'll wrap it up with a summary.
Yeah. Just want to remind everybody, a couple days ago was the real Yom HaShoah, the real Holocaust Remembrance Day. For some reason, New York State celebrates at a different time. And I see my colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly, they get up and they speak and never again. You know what? I don't need their never again, and they could just sit down. But what they could do is remember who were the first people to march with them during the Civil Rights Movement and the first people to die for them in the Civil Rights Movement. We have a majority leader and a speaker that should do the honorable thing and bring this bill out of committee. Speeches are all nice. Let's see some action. Senator?
Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone who passionately spoke on this issue today. You know, it reminds me, you know, we see on TV, we see even in Congress, common sense Democrats and Republicans coming together to pass legislation. Where are the New York State Senate majority, senators in the majority, and the Assemblymen and women in the majority in the Assembly? They're nowhere to be found. You know, my Senate colleagues and I were at a press conference at Columbia University last week. No Democrats. I can't even think of any Democrats that have had a press conference on this issue throughout this entire process. They were welcome to be here today. Apparently, they may have other goals or other commitments today. But listen, we need to be speaking in one voice on this issue. We need to pass this common sense bill. It's an easy bill, as some people have mentioned before. It's an easy bill to pass, something that I think we should all rally behind, and we need to get it done now. So with that, we'll take some questions.
I guess everybody agrees. Great. Push it on your side of the media. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.